the real turbulence happens when there are the convergence of the trends. Yeah, it is not just one or two mega trends, but they are the convergence of the trends. And then it requires leaders to rethink your assumptions about constancy, build adaptive capacity, robustness, and resilience in your organization. And you have to be ready to face any crisis throughout your extended enterprise. So, one is preparing and adapting to increased turbulence. The second important bit is what I would call as reorienting your roadmap with sense making. Now, sense making as a term was introduced by a thinker called Carl Weick way back in 1979. But I believe sense making should be brought top of the list when it comes to leadership attributes, because this involves pulling together disparate views, and you need to create a plausible understanding of the complexity around us, testing that understanding, and based on that test, you may need to refine it or, if necessary, abandon it and start over. Now, this does not mean that sense making will result in a flawless picture of what is happening. So, sense making is not about achieving omniscience, but this is about not waiting for perfect information and learning. And this is what will enable you to adapt to the changing scenario. The other thing, which I believe, Ajita, comes very naturally to Eastern leaders, is putting care and compassion at the center of leadership. When we talked about leadership, we often talked about that great leaders possess a cocktail of passion, vision, skills. They can stand up at the pulpit and basically inspire thousands. Now, that does not mean these traits are not required. Of course, they are required. But to alleviate human suffering, let alone address the systemic causes, issues that cause and perpetuate it, we have to put care and compassion at the center of leadership. Yeah. Leadership often conjured force that you need to fight. And this is what, in the old days, great leadership was about. But we now need to focus on healing and renewing the relationships. And there are many issues we must understand that we would not be able to do it alone as individuals or as an organization. And we have to do it collectively, together with, in many cases, with our competitors. Say, for instance, climate change. Say, instance, how do you manage plastic in the environment? No company would be able to do it alone. You would have to do it together with your competitors. The fourth important bit is, how do you unleash the collective genius of your team? Very often people have focused on the greatness of a leader. And I believe the concept of a great leader is a myth. It is always the work of a great team that matters and counts. It's about the collective genius. How do you unleash the genius of your team to harness? And how do you ensure that they fulfill the collective good? So these are challenges are about head and heart. So leadership is about exercising the moral imagination and courage. This is not about going it alone. The other important bit is, purpose-driven and collaborative. If you are going to look after the interests of multi-stakeholders, then you need a larger purpose to guide you. It is not just about market cap being the sole determinator, because you're expected to help address societal issues, environmental issues, and you will have to take decisions which are in the long-term interests of both the organization and the world. And so for this, you require a bigger purpose and you require a very collaborative approach. And then, of course, I've spoken about speed and agility. And like I said, speed and agility is not about the clock time. Yeah, it is about recognizing opportunities and challenges, taking the right decision with speed, and of course, deploying the resources to execute them. So these are, I believe, the traits you require in modern leaders. Of course, trust, transparency, and effectiveness are table stakes. Of course, you have to invest in talent, skills, collaborations, and partnerships. You have to have a telescope and a microscope. Yeah, you should be able to craft strategy at 30,000 feet, and you should be able to execute it at ground zero. That would make a great leader.